Hello guys and girls, and welcome to today's lesson. As you can see here on the screen, our topic today that we're going to be going over is summarizing. You should have a note-taking sheet ready to go. You should also have a pencil ready to go. So once you have your supplies that you need for your notes, you can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Before we really dive in and get into what summarizing is all about, I would like to ask you first, what do you already know about summarizing? You can think about how long you think a summary should be. You could give me what you think a good definition for summary would be. You could also tell me what you think should be written in a summary or what should not be written in a summary. So again, just think about it for a second and tell me, what do you already know about summarizing before starting this lesson today? I'm hopeful that you have at least heard the word summary before, but if not, here's a really good definition for you. A summary is a short, objective explanation of a text. I'm going to read that one more time. A summary is a short, objective explanation of a text. We're going to get into this a little bit more here in just a second, but there are a couple of keywords that I want to point out here. First of all, the word short. I feel like that's probably going to be your favorite part about summarizing, is that summaries are not meant to be long. They are meant to be short. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out here is that summaries are objective. What that means is we do not include opinions in summaries, and we'll talk more about that here in just a second. Make sure you have your notes filled in for this slide, and then you can move on. All right, we are going to talk about 5 different rules of summarizing. So 5 different things that you should do, or maybe even that you should not do when you are writing a summary. And again, you will have some notes to fill in, so make sure you're following along. Our first rule of summarizing is something that we just talked about when we were practicing finding the main idea, and that is to include keywords. When we talked about main idea, we talked about how keywords are going to be those words that are repeated throughout the text, but they're also going to be words that are important to the text. So words like the, a, and, those are not going to be keywords. The keywords are going to be the words that give us the details that we need to understand what the passage is about. And again, those words are usually going to be repeated throughout the passage several times. Our second rule of summarizing is no personal opinions. Remember just a moment ago when we were looking at the definition of summary, we talked about the word objective. This is what that's talking about. When you are writing a summary, you should not give your opinion on the topic of the passage. So there's not going to be any I feel, I think, I believe, in my opinion. You are just sticking to the facts of what the article is about that you are summarizing. The third rule of summarizing is to stay true to the original text. Do not include extra information that wasn't in the passage. So what that means is maybe sometimes you're given a passage that you have a lot of background information about that topic. Let's just throw an example out there. Let's say I have you summarize a passage about UK's basketball team. Maybe you are a huge UK basketball fan and you could tell me lots of information about their basketball history, but if you were writing a summary about a specific article, you would only be including the information that was in that article, not your background information, not things that you already know. You are just sticking to the facts of the article that you've read. Our next rule of summarizing is to keep it short. I feel like this is probably going to be your favorite rule of summarizing. Like I mentioned earlier, summaries are not supposed to be long. They are supposed to be very short. Most summaries are only going to be between 3 and 5 sentences long. And then our last rule of summarizing is to paraphrase. So what that means is you are taking the information from the article or the passage and you are putting it in your own words. This is different from what we've done earlier this year because throughout the year so far, we have been citing textual evidence quite a bit. And when we cite textual evidence, I tell you that I do want it to be directly word for word from the text. We've talked about having good sentence starters like the text says, and using the correct punctuation like quotation marks, and then citing our evidence exactly as it's written in the text. When you summarize, you actually don't do that. You take the information that's written in the passage, you put it in your own words, and it's very important that you're not including every single detail from the text, because remember, summaries are meant to be short. When you have figured out, or you've followed all 5 of those rules, and you are ready to actually start writing your summary, there are 6 questions that your summary is going to be answering. The first question is, who or what is the most important subject in the article? What is important about that subject? When did or does this take place? Where does it take place? Why is it important? And how did this occur? So if you notice, you've probably heard these questions before. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Those are the questions that you want to make sure you are answering, and the information you want to make sure you are including in your summaries. Okay, so now that we've gone over all the things to do with summarizing, the 5 rules and then the 6 questions that you're going to be answering, we are going to look at an example of a summary together. But first, we need to read this article first. This article is titled Cockroaches. I'm going to be reading it off my screen. I would love for you to follow along with me. People don't think too highly of cockroaches. There's something about their long antennae and quick movements that make them easy to mistrust. Yet, unlike spiders, wasps, or ticks, most roaches are not a threat to people. So, why do we hate cockroaches so much? It could be because there are so many of them. The number of cockroaches in the world is constantly increasing because they reproduce very quickly. There are about 3,500 different kinds of cockroaches in the world. The only place cockroaches are not found is at the polar ice caps. We could hate cockroaches because they're hard to kill. Some types of roaches are able to resist poisons that are made to kill them. They also move quickly. Some adult cockroaches can run up to 2 miles per hour. Although this might not sound very fast, consider this. If cockroaches were the size of lions, they would be able to run 50 miles per hour. It could be because we know they will probably outlast us. Cockroaches have survived for 320 million years. That is much older than humans. It is even older than dinosaurs. Cockroaches have existed from before dinosaurs were around until dinosaurs went extinct, all the way up until today. But none of those reasons really explains why most people hate cockroaches. Most people hate them because they just look creepy. The next time you feel this way, keep in mind that it could be worse. Most cockroaches in America are less than 1 inch long. One type of cockroach found in the Borneo grows to be more than 4 inches long. Now that's creepy. So now that we've read through that passage together, let's break it down into the different parts and see if we can answer those questions that we talked about just a moment ago, these questions that should be included in a summary. So who or what was this passage about? So we have to think, what was this passage? This is kind of like the topic, one word that tells what this entire passage was about. The answer, of course, is cockroaches. Now, one thing that's important to point out here is that when we hear the word who, it's easy to think in our mind that we're talking about a person. But like I just said, when we're figuring out the who, we're answering this question, who or what is this passage about, we're really looking for the topic. So 1 or 2 words that tells what the passage was mostly about, and that may not always be a person. So in this case, it was cockroaches. The next question that we're going to answer is what is important about this subject. So what was this passage trying to teach us about cockroaches? And that is that people hate cockroaches. That entire article was going through all of the different reasons why people do not like cockroaches. When does or did this take place? It tells us that cockroaches have been around for 320 million years. It also talked about how they were actually on Earth before dinosaurs. So the when in this article is 320 million years. Where does this occur? So we're trying to figure out where do cockroaches exist in the world? The answer is that they practically live everywhere in the world. I believe the article said the only exception would be the polar ice caps. Why is this subject important? So why do we care? People have always disliked cockroaches. It talked about that in the article, and they're probably going to outlast people. So the why is that we've always disliked them, but that they're probably going to live longer than us. And then last but not least, how does this occur? This is all the different reasons why people hate cockroaches that the article listed. They're hard to kill, they move quickly, they're probably going to outlast humans, and then at the very end it told us that cockroaches are just creepy. So now that we've figured out all of that information, our final step in writing our summary is to put all of this information together into a short explanation of a text. Remember, this should be somewhere between 3 to 5 sentences, and it should include the information that we just identified when we were answering the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how. So here's what we've got. People hate cockroaches for several reasons. They can survive practically everywhere in the world and reproduce quickly. They are hard to kill because they move fast and their bodies can resist poison. Their species is older than humans, but mostly people hate them because they are creepy. So if we count here, I see 1 period, 2 periods, 3 periods, and then 4 periods, which means this summary is 4 sentences, which is perfect. It's right in the ballpark of 3 to 5 sentences like we talked about. It included all the information that we identified when we were answering those questions. So this is a solid example of a well-written summary. Now that you have completed this lesson and you have your notes done, you are going to switch gears and move over to iReady, and you have a summarizing lesson that is posted on iReady. I will go ahead and tell you, just a heads up, that this iReady lesson is going to be for a grade, so it's very important that you take your time and do your best.